ahead, action. All right, this is going to be our project, our physical assessment of the local Guam police by Brian, Vince, Tristan, and Marco. Um, Heading into it, into our table of contents. Firstly, we'll go over the job description, which will cover the duties they perform, what do they do on the job, and then we'll head into the physical assessment. This will include what do they test for, how do they measure their physical capabilities, and why is it important. Next, we'll provide feedback on how our project went, what happened throughout it, and how do we conduct it. Firstly, the job description. We see police officers in Guam, like many other places, are responsible for public safety, law enforcement, and overall well-being of the community to prevent crime. They usually patrol in assigned areas and they respond to emergency or non-emergency calls. They conduct investigations, and these are to prevent criminal activities and make arrests.
Okay, so as far as duties performed functions, knowledge of applicable local and federal law enforcement laws, rules, regulations, policies, and procedures. They must know the knowledge of the modern principles, practices, and methods of police administration and operations for the safe and efficient execution of assignments and response to emergency situations, knowledge of the technical phases of crime prevention, law enforcement rules of evidence and related functions such as investigation, patrol, traffic control and safety, record keeping, care and custody of persons, and police training to effectively respond to emergencies and or execute arrests and the protection of life and property, knowledge of the techniques and methods for preserving evidence for use in investigations and in criminal justice proceedings, ability to exercise sound discretion and initiative in the performance of duties, ability to understand and follow oral and written instructions, ability to act quickly and calmly in emergencies, ability to communicate effectively orally and in writing, ability to exert physical force, skill in the use and care of firearms, skill in the safe operation of motor vehicles, and skill in administering first aid. Next.
And we're going to the environment and the physical environment, like where the police would be active, what's the environment around them, how do they interact with it. The physical environment of Guam is most often in like one of these three areas. It's going to be in our urban area, which is patrolling in streets that are densely populated villages, more the northern side of the island, or rural areas where it would be most likely in the south, where there are remote and fewer residents residing. You can also see them mostly on road traffic. They are often on the roads for patrol and enforcement of traffic laws.
Physical assessment and standard. The tests that they use for the police include the push-ups, which includes how many push-ups can be done in a minute, sit-ups, number of reps of sit-ups in a minute, and lastly the quarter-mile run, which is a run with the specified distance of a quarter mile within 2 minutes.
And the theory, the why. So, why would it be these tests to test for function? And this would be because these tests are functional tests of general units of speed, agility, and strength. This would ensure police officers have the necessary physical fitness and abilities to perform the duties required of law enforcement. This means like ensure optional readiness, promote officer safety, enhancing of public confidence, and establishing standards.
So for the background, we did the quarter-mile run, so officers may be required to complete the run within a specified time, such as 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the department's standards. Push-ups, so the number of push-ups required in a minute can vary, but a typical requirement for law enforcement fitness tests is around 25 to 30 push-ups in 1 minute. And for sit-ups, similarly, the number of sit-ups required in a minute can vary, but a typical requirement for law enforcement fitness tests is around 25 to 30 sit-ups in 1 minute. And For
And these
the
are just some other the tests that
Yeah.
they would perform. Some institutions have obstacle courses to go through, but general units of metrics, you can do a vertical jump test, you can do an agility test, and this would be like a shuttle run and whatnot. For the movements, assess the how. How would we conduct these movements? The quarter mile test is based on completing the run with the specified time. You can look at running form and techniques that can be taken into consideration. Push-ups, you will have an assessor that will count the number of push-ups completed within the specified time limit. Of course, proper form includes a straight body, full arm extension at the top, and you want to get a pretty good depth at the bottom. Sit-ups are assessed similarly to the push-ups as well, by number of completion within the time limit, which would be in a minute. And proper form should include the touching of the elbows to the knee at the top of the sit-up.
so for
Points of
the
performance. So for the quarter mile, it should be done in 2 minutes, depending on the department standards. Push-ups, 25 to 30 push-ups in 1 minute. Sit-ups, 25 to 30 sit-ups in 1 minute. And for an obstacle course, the specified times, such as 1 minute or two. For vertical jump, 16 to 20 inches. And lastly, the agility test with a specified time, such as 15 to 20 seconds.
Other points of performance you can look at is during your run, you want to maintain a steady pace. You want proper breathing as well as running form. Completing the distance in the specified time, which would be 2 to 3 minutes. Push-ups, you're going to start in a plank position with hands shoulder width apart. You're going to get proper depth and form. Push back into starting position with fully extended arms. Sit-ups, you want to start in a lying position with knees bent and flat on the ground. You can have your accessor hold down on your feet if that helps. You can cross your arms over the chest or behind the head, and you're going to sit up, bringing the torso toward the knees. Lower torso back down when you're coming down to the ground should be in a controlled manner.
So for the relevant information, you must they must be citizens of the United States, if not by birth, then through naturalization. They must have a valid driver's license issued for the state of Guam. They must hold a high school diploma or equivalent degree like a GED, and they must have medical clearance. Candidates that may be required to obtain medical clearance from a healthcare provider before participating in the physical assessment if he or she has any function disabilities, problems, or medical conditions. This is to ensure they are fit to participate. For the passing rate statistics, we're modeling the U.S. Air Force physical fitness standards. The post-commission, prior to recent modifications, would require that a 40-year-old male officer be able to maintain a waistline no wider than 39 inches, run 1.5 miles within 15 minutes, and perform at least 34 sit-ups and 21 push-ups in a minute each. Most agencies would have a passing rate between 20 and 50% after undergoing standards within the test guidelines. The requirements for each are based on age, with the youngest peace officers required to complete 33 push-ups in a minute, and those over the age of 40 required to complete between 14 and 21 push-ups in a minute. With the older PFQT standards, only 35% of officers at the Department of Corrections would pass a majority of the test components. With the newer revised standards, about 60% of the department's officers pass, according to DOC officials. Likewise, at the Guam Fire Department, according to GFD officials, only 30% of officers tested would pass. But with the newer standards, 95% pass, a resounding difference across all agencies following the modified PFQT standards.
The reliability, validity of tests to job duties. The tests are to make sure the officers are at the physical standards to protect the public and themselves. These tests are also done annually to make sure officers are still or at a higher level than the physical standard. If an officer would not pass said annual test, then they are at risk of decertification and losing their jobs. It was revealed in the PDN article from 2017, out of 317 from GPD, 218 officers have failed. The tests are based on the Air Force fitness standards. So for our physical tests that we performed, our demographic included a middle school boys basketball team, specifically my Spartans basketball team that I coach. So for the test, before the test, we ensured that they all signed their consent forms and allowed them to have proper warm-up and conducted the test starting with the push-ups, then the sit-ups, and then we ended with the quarter-mile run, ensuring that they had enough rest time in between each test.
All right, these are going to be the results of our test. And to the right, you can see the names of the participants as well as how many push-ups they completed, sit-ups, and their quarter-mile time. The individuals that were able to pass the physical assessment and be successful as police officers are as follows. We see Joaquin, Glenn, Ethan, Donato, Tom, Micah, Alex, and James. Another thing to note is push-ups seem to be the limiting factor for some. This suggests that upper body strength are required for push-ups might be an area where improvement is needed for these individuals. I'm recognizing that we have middle school athletes doing this trial and about half of them passing. I think the participants did very well.
Ways to improve / shortcomings. The participants lacked in upper body strength, but were good in the cardio and sit-up part of the test. The participants should do more upper body workouts to improve their test scores, examples, push-ups, and bench press. Participants could have paid better attention to the demonstrations. Improve as an individual / group testing. Being more accurate in tracking the scores, monitoring the data, monitoring the participants' forms, give better demonstrations of proper form, and give better explanation on why we were performing the test.
And this is going to be our references for the slides. This is going to contain what do they do, the duties they perform, things like that. And then into our physical assessment, what is their physical assessment gonna, bro, we're gonna redo this, bro.
It's okay, it's okay. Let's go, Tyler!